So today I have a very interesting topic I want to discuss, and I want to call it cursed with knowledge. And I'll explain to you what I mean. It usually affects people that are deep thinking. If you are a deep thinker and you care a lot and you want to understand how everything works, then you will eventually run into this problem. And I will use this analogy to kind of build upon this theme. And even if you don't feel this way, even if you don't feel cursed with knowledge, you will be able to understand what I mean. Let's start with a quick example. I'm going to use this candle. This candle has been with me since I moved into this house over a year ago. And I have not even used it once. I don't pay it no mind. To me, I have this candle, but I don't think about it too much. I just label it as candle. But that's really not doing this object enough justice when you just label it as candle, because it is much more than just one word. If you really look at this object, and if you want to do this experiment with me, you can pick up an object next to you. It doesn't have to be a candle, but you touch it, you feel it, and you try to describe it without using words. You try to just describe it using feelings almost, right? If you just sit there. And if you do this experiment, if you pause this video and do this experiment for real, you will realize that you can feel something that you can't explain almost, right? And it's beautiful. It feels beautiful. When you look at the candle or whatever you're holding and you're not using words and you're just feeling the object, you feel almost connected to it. And this is something that everyone can do. I've shown it to my friends. They thought it was very interesting. Now, when you're cursed with knowledge, you understand things so much you can no longer have this unspoken form of understanding, right? You need to put words because you have so much knowledge that you can't help yourself. So when you have like a candle here, and if you were to know everything about it, you know what the wax is made out of, what the glass is made out of, you know the entire process, this object wouldn't feel so mystical. To me, it feels very strange because I don't know how it's created. I don't know anything about it, right? And there's this mystery. But when you have knowledge and understanding, you can no longer feel that mystery. You lose the feeling and you only have understanding. And let me tell you why this is a curse. In the past couple of months, I've realized that I've been feeling numb, like very numb. I don't know what it is. And I don't feel emotions. I don't really feel anger. I don't really feel sadness. I feel loneliness, but it isn't even, it's quite hard to explain. So I hardly feel an emotion anymore. And it's because I've understood too much. When I feel anger, I'm able to rationalize it within milliseconds or seconds, and I don't feel the anger anymore. When I feel sadness, when I even feel happiness, an extreme level of happiness, I don't know, I just subconsciously create this baseline and I go back into it. Now you may ask, why don't I even allow happiness? And that's a good question. I think it's because when you feel happy, eventually, when you have this dopamine spike chemically, eventually it has to crash. So if you make yourself spike without any control, eventually that crash feels devastating. And I hate that crash. So I don't allow myself to feel that peak happiness anymore. And I can't control it because right as I feel it, I rationalize it within milliseconds or seconds. And we're going back to this candle example. You know, I can no longer just use the word candle. I can no longer even just feel it, not use any words, not to understand it. I can't even feel the object, right? I understand too much. I know what it's made of. I know the exact process. I know every single process it took to make this, all the way to the sticker on the bottom. And that's the way life is. When you have knowledge about how things work, how society works, how really everything is just a show, and you have to kind of partake in this show that is the world to get what you want. And then what you want, you realize, is what is it called? A product of your environment. Think about anything you want. Think about what you even find attractive, the kind of girl you like. Maybe if you're a woman watching, this kind of guy you like, the kind of cars you like, the house you want to live in, the colors you like. You start thinking like, what percent of this is even you versus a product of your environment? And I think that's the tricky situation, because we don't really know. And this is why I feel cursed with knowledge, because in the past few months now, where I've been thinking more, I start thinking, who am I really? You wake up every day and you choose who you are. I'll give you an example. You may have heard, this is popular now with Marvel, but you know the X-Men, you know Mystique. Mystique is the one that can change her appearance. Mystique, in a lot of media, will have this trope where she has a hard time identifying with a particular body. Like, if you had the ability to shapeshift, which body would you identify with as the real you? Because I think the moment you have the ability to shapeshift, you no longer have a real body. Because what even is a real body? Is it just the body you're born with, right? We kind of get into this Theseus ship kind of arguments. So we're going to move past all of those, but just think like this. If you can shapeshift your body, who would the real you be, right? And now we got to kind of take it back and think about our identity. Every morning we wake up and choose who we are. We choose how good of a person we are. We choose our charisma level. We choose all these things. We choose them based upon the amount of work it takes, the amount of results we're going to get from the work, and all those things, right? And it makes me wonder, like, why are we so consistent, or why do we try to be so consistent? You know, every day, almost everyone, billions of us wake up and choose to be the same person we were yesterday. It's so fascinating to me. And I think to myself, why am I choosing the same person even though I'm not happy? And it's such a hard question to answer. I think a part of us have this ego, and our ego prevents us from moving on too quickly. And I feel like with this knowledge, I can relinquish my ego. My ego has essentially died, right? I could care less about a specific version of myself. I think of myself every day as a new person, even every minute. Maybe not an entirely new person, but I'm not the same person as I was at the start of this video. And that's how I think. And in a way, it has made me dissolve my ego. So now I'm egoless, formless. I'm kind of like Mystique in a way, right? And I fall into the same problem she does. Who is the real me? Who am I going to wake up tomorrow and choose to be? And if the identity I build, somehow it's not the one I want to be in the future, does he just die? And I don't mean like a physical death, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. And this is what I mean by cursed with knowledge. You eventually think a lot. You have this form of paralysis. I don't feel many emotions anymore. And it feels just like a curse. I feel like there's a silver lining at the end. I feel like all this work, all this thought I've put in, it's hard for me to explain into words right now. And I am writing a book, so I hope everything out if you are interested. But it feels like it will pay off eventually, but right now it just feels like a curse. But thank you guys for staying tuned. Hopefully you guys can engage and let me know how you feel about this, especially if you are a deep thinker. But once again, we will post a video a day for the next year. We're around episode 60, so we got about 300 more videos to post for the next year. Stay tuned, guys. We will always have something interesting coming up. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind, as you can see, and I hope you guys can relate or share something with me. Thank you.